Money with David Blain, a discussion about your money, including everything from investing and taxes to real estate. Now with this week's program from D.L. Blain Company in New Bern, here's David Blain.
Hello and welcome to All Things Money. I'm David Blain, your host for the next 30 minutes. We've got a great show lined up for you today. As always, before we get started, let you know our phone number here is 252-633-0107. If you have any questions or comments on the show, anything you'd like to address, a question about your particular circumstance or something going on in the economy, give us a call or email. Our email is allthingsmoney@dlblain.com. That's allthingsmoney@dlblain.com. And you can also visit us on the web at www.dlblain.com. There you'll find information about myself and my company, as well as archived copies of the past shows. If you miss us on the radio or TV, you can go there and listen to previous shows. So today we've got a great show lined up for you. We're going to talk a little bit about taxes, a little bit about gold, maybe a little bit about the economy. But before we do, I got this interesting study. Actually, I got it from Watchdog on Wall Street. Markowski, he put this on his website a couple months ago. It originally came from the Wall Street Journal, and it was about who's more informed on economic issues, liberals or conservatives. And, you know, we try not to get into too much politics on the show here, but when it comes to the economy and economics, there are, in my opinion, clearly right answers and wrong answers. And there's a number of useless studies out there from, liberal universities. They study all sorts of crazy things. Like Chris points out, Washington University did a study on how drinking alcohol makes young adults act stupid. And your taxpayer money went to fund that study. But anyway, there was a decent study done by Zogby, and the researchers asked people in the American public about certain economic issues. And the first question they asked was, restrictions on housing development make housing less affordable. And so we're going to make this your quiz. Is that I'm going to ask the questions they ask. I want you to go through the answers in your mind, and then I'm going to give you the answer that a independent or non-biased economist would give you. So the first question was, restrictions on housing development make housing less affordable. And of course, the answer to that is that whenever you have restrictions on housing, it increases the cost. So when you put housing restrictions on development, it does not make the housing more affordable, but it raises the cost of housing for everyone. The second question, mandatory licensing of professional services increases the price of those services. Professional services like the business that I'm in, the delivery of investment advice, adding the licensing and fees and things certainly does increase the cost of those services. The next question, overall the standard of living now is higher than it was 30 years ago. True or false? Actually, the standard of living today is much higher than it was 30 years ago. Of course, you may not know that by listening to the mainstream media, but it is. It's much higher. It's also much higher than many places around the world. I think our current administration is very enamored with the Chinese. Well, actually, the majority of Chinese live in abject poverty that our poor would think was deplorable. The next question, rent control leads to housing shortages. And of course, the correct answer is true, that when you have rent control, such as you do in New York City, it leads to housing shortages. The next question, a company with the largest market share is a monopoly. No, that is not true. Just because a company has the largest market share, such as Walmart, does not mean that it's a monopoly. It also does not mean that it will be around forever. Think Sears Roebuck and Company, or Woolworth and Company. These were retailers that were around forever, but we hardly hear of them anymore. The last question, third world workers working for American companies overseas are being exploited. And of course, this is not true. There are workers in other countries that don't have the same standard of living, but by and large, American companies overseas are very desirable places to work. So anyway, that's just kind of a little quiz for you. If hopefully you got the right answers. If not, keep listening to the show. We'll make sure that you know how to answer these economic questions correctly. And by the way, the results of the survey, the people that got the most answers correct were very conservative, closely followed by libertarians. And of course, the people that got the most wrong were those that identified themselves as progressive or very liberal. And economic ignorance is something that we really can't afford, and yet it's pervasive throughout the country. So we encourage you to do some research, listen to our show, go out there and study economics. There's a great book called The Citizen's Guide to the Economy by Thomas Sowell. And it's a book that's written for the citizen. It boils economics down into layman's terms that the average person can understand and relate to. That's Thomas Sowell, A Citizen's Guide to the Economy. I highly recommend that book. We're going to start talking now a little bit about gold. I've heard various things. Well, gold is in a bubble. Gold is the greatest thing in the world. Avoid gold. You hear all sorts of conflicting messages. And as I always tell you on this show, I don't care about being right. I don't try to predict the future. I don't care about being right or wrong. I only care about one thing, and that's making money. At least, I do care about other things, but in terms of the show and my day job, that's what we're in business to do, is help people make money. And so when it comes to gold, what I do is sort of strip away all the hype surrounding it, as well as the disparaging remarks, and look at the facts. And the facts of the matter are very positive for gold for the end of the year, which, by the way, I love bubbles. Most people think bubbles and financial markets are an evil thing or a bad thing. They are if you don't know what you're doing and you get caught in one, but I love bubbles. The stock market bubble of the late 90s, we made a ton of money. The real estate bubble, once again, it was a great time to make money in real estate. You just have to, when you realize that you're in a bubble, as it starts approaching the peak or unsustainable levels, you need to move away from the bubble. But the commodities bubble, the gold bubble, have been great times to make money in gold and commodities. And so we look forward to the next bubble that occurs so that we can make some money for our clients. I'll give you our take on gold right after the break, but we're going to take a short break for a message from our sponsors. For All Things Money, this is David Blain, and we'll be right back.